There we go. Great. Yeah. So once again, hello everyone. Thanks for joining yet another Back to India webinar. This one is Nailing Finances for Returning NRIs. Here we have Raj and Mukund, co-founders of Turtle Finance, which is a young and upcoming financial startup. Turtle is India's fixed fee financial planning platform that gives individuals access to the right financial advice from qualified advisors across investments, insurance, taxes, loans, credit cards, and even bill drafting via one-on-one sessions. It's a conversation first platform, not your yet another financial app. So in today's webinar, we'll be dealing with all of your burning questions on managing your finances while moving back to India. And we have curated most of your questions shared already, and Raj and Mukund have prepared the answers. But if you have any more that are different from those topics, feel free to share in the comments, and we will try and reply to them either in the chat or in the meeting itself. This webinar, as you know, is being recorded and will be shared on our YouTube channel later, and links will be shared within the groups that you're already part of. So without any delay, I would like to give it over to Raj and Mukund. Raj, please take over.
Hello, everyone. Raj this side. Good morning to folks joining in from US, and good evening to folks joining in from UK. And thank you, first of all, thank you for all of you for taking our time to join this, and thank you to Money and the Back to India team for making this happen. We have received a lot of questions. We'll sort of come to that in a few minutes, but we just thought we'll take you through a journey. We'll take you through a journey how finances for NRIs should be looked at. Parts of it has been learned over last few months with some of the clients we have on board. And some of the questions, if they are not answered, we can connect offline and help you answer that. So the only thing is, just be with me for the next 60 odd minutes. Keep your smartphones handy because it is not going to be a monologue. It's going to be a conversational discussion. We would need your participation, and I'll sort of communicate the steps as we reach there. So let's get started. A lot goes in the mind when you move across countries, which is not just limited to finance. There are things around settling back. There are questions around, there are anxieties around future, career, lifestyle choices, and a lot of things. And while this is all going in our head, finance obviously is an important thing which needs to be looked at it. And these are some of the questions we keep sort of seeing, we keep sort of hearing, and comes in our conversation with a few NRIs we have as our clients is, should I take back all my savings? How should I manage my investments? Will my income in India be enough? Will I have to pay more taxes? And obviously taxation is a very interesting thing, especially with respect to NRIs. We're going to touch upon that. Most importantly, what we have been able to sort of understand is they're looking for the right guy. Who's that go-to guy? Who is that person? Who's that platform that we should be reaching out to, listening to? Because there is too much of noise. There is too much of mis-selling which is happening in the market. So what we thought, we'll sort of understand this from you. How many of you on this call today, on this workshop today, are worried about your handling about your finances when you move back? Maybe just a show of hand on the chat, or maybe a yes in the chat would be good enough to keep this more engaging. Okay.
Quite a few hands there.
Quite a few hands. Interesting. So we're going to address these queries. Some of the questions which we're going to cover is going to answer a lot of queries many of you would have. And if there are anything left, put it in the chat, please.
Raj, if I can interrupt just quickly, can you just quickly, maybe just briefly go through the topics that we have curated from the questions posted already, that we have categorized, just to give an idea of what's coming up towards the end.
Yeah, so we have questions coming in from managing investments, withdrawing investments, managing your savings. We have also categorized some of the questions which you're going to see are around tax residencies. It's going to have questions around how life is going to look like in India when you move back. And we'll obviously start with something as smooth landing, and then we'll slowly build into investments, savings, tax residency, touching upon insurances, how it works in India, and lastly, a little bit about inheritance. This is just a 60-minute primer to a lot of questions which you might also have after this workshop.
Wonderful.
So,
Sorry for interrupting, but yeah, go ahead, please. Thanks.
Yeah. So let's get started. Let's understand. So this is not a boring finance workshop where a lot of numbers would be coming in. So let's understand this with a conversation between two friends. The guy on the left, in the red, Ram, is looking forward to come back to India. And his friend in the stripes, white t-shirt, has just moved back, Shyam, just moved back to India. And there's a conversation going on between moving back, managing money. And the first question, and I think there is no particular order, but as the questions are coming into his head, he's asking, I want to know the list of things I should be immediately doing or I should immediately sort out once I'm back in India. And this is the time I would request all of you to sort of take out your phone, please scan these QR code and join me on a journey. It's going to be an interesting question coming in where you can answer anonymously. We're not capturing any data at this point of time. So yeah, join me on this. And I want to understand how many of you sort of know about the important things that need to be done once you just land back in India. If you're mis-scanning the QR code, please do it from the top left corner.
So just FYI, this is a Q&A and you need to answer this. Isn't that right, Raj?
Yes.
Great.
If you'll just scan, the question will be on your phone screen. It'll take a minute maybe to just getting acclimatized to it. Yeah. So
we have a lot of personal finance enthusiasts in the group. So please
Wonderful.
don't
Wonderful. Wonderful. That's always interesting. Okay.
There you go.
Updating your government ID perfectly sitting well. Enable local payment options. Updating KYC, obviously. Yes, that's a correct one.
I'm happy seeing this. I mean, this is solid validation for me.
And I'm also happy to see so many people, 12 people have answered so far, and it's so interesting. Yeah. I think as the answers are sort of getting emerged, coming on the screen, most of you, I think, have gotten it right, that there are few things which need to be sort of taken care immediately once you sort of land. And hence, these are sort of first 30-day activities that need to be done. And here is a checklist, sort of, just to sort of, if you're thinking possibly you would have seen a lot of checklists out there, but 5 things, where 4 of which are finance and 1 is more behavioral. Settle in, meet neighbors, know your locality. It's important to know people around you. It's not easy to sort of settle back in a new locality, in a new country. Get a permanent phone number, and this is going to be important for you for a lot of things related to KYC, related updating your financial instruments, updating your financial products, followed by updating KYC. Obviously, that has to happen once you get a phone number, and that is the reason why you need a phone. Don't forget to carry your medical records, because obviously if there's a medical history, that is important once you come back to India. Healthcare in India works very differently. And get a health insurance for you and your loved ones, because emergencies don't knock the door before coming. And sort local payment options. That's important. Again, the movement of money in the country works very differently. Ram thinks he's sorted. He has an international credit card with the last one. So I think he just has to take care of the 4 things. So again, a question back to all of you. Do you folks think you can get by using an international credit card for day-to-day expenses in India? What do you folks think? Is this okay? With the first answers coming in. Okay, that's amazing. Folks who have joined late, just scan the QR code, you will be on the question. That's very interesting. 70% people think it's not going to be enough having an international credit card. And yes, you guys are right. Because most establishments in India won't accept international credit card. For your day-to-day transaction, you'll need to set up UPI. It's new technology. Obviously, most of you would be familiar with use in India. Get an Indian credit card or a debit card. Basically, get an Indian card and keep some cash handy always. It works at it, basically. Another question which sort of is coming up in the mind and we have often seen being asked to us is, how will my income and cost of living change? And basically it depends. It depends because a lot of things would change. Currency would change. Maybe numerically the salary or the income would reduce. But obviously things are going to be expensive. Some things are going to be cheaper. Some things are going to be expensive. So I want to understand from you all, are you worried if your income will be able to sustain your current lifestyle when you move back to India?
I assume this is going to be 100% yes.
Yeah, because I think loss aversion feels more. When the number reduces on our pay slips or a bank account, it definitely hits us hard. 85% people are worried that it's okay. Okay, I think some folks are still answering. But I understood. If most of you are worried about this, there is a small bad news that your absolute income would almost definitely reduce. But the good thing is, you would still be able to do more with this reduced income. You'll still be able to have a equally, if not same, but a similar sort of a lifestyle in India uh, because of the purchasing power parity. Um, and as you can see on the screen, conversion to a dollar today is like an 80 to 83 rupees. But from a purchasing power parity, it works very differently. It's a ratio of 1:20 versus 1:80 on the conversion side. And hence, things which will become cheaper as a percentage of your income would be things like rent, your utilities, your day-to-day lifestyle things like your school fee, children's school fees, your staff fees, staff salary, your domestic health, food, transportation, and healthcare. Most likely it will be cheaper to you. There is a star on the healthcare. We are going to touch upon that very soon. But what's going to be becoming expensive for you, relatively, again, all the premium and luxury things, luxury clothing, accessories, real estate, electronics, and gadgets. So yeah, it's important to sort of understand how money would actually work for you in India. What are your priorities? Setting your priorities at that point of time. Let's address the elephant in the room. I think this question has come to us in different forms and shape. I'm thinking I should withdraw all my investments and transfer all my savings to India.
This is the best part.
Yeah. So yeah, I want to first understand from all of you, what do you folks on the call think? Should you be transferring all your savings when you move back? Let's see. Okay. We sort of are having a divided room at this point of time. No, and I'm not sure. Okay. Okay. Great. 62% of people think they should not. And well, it again depends. You'll see this coming because the reason is because it depends on your priorities, it depends on your situation, it depends on your age, it depends on a lot of other factors that's going to impact this. But if I have to put a framework around this, it's a small checklist of 3 things that Shyam is trying to explain. And it's broken into how unique is your investment. Will your investment benefit from currency and inflation gains be good enough? Again, going too technical, I think, on this. And after taxes in both the countries, are the gains still worth it? Now, I know it's a lot to do if we have to do mental math on each of the investments. And I think so is the situation with somebody like Ram. He's confused. And I think so would you be. So let's take another attempt at understanding this. Exclusivity of your investment. How exclusive or accessible is that investment for you in your current country at this point of time once you move back? So if you have a great foreign investment and it's difficult to replicate in India, it's a green flag. Your foreign gains are typically sort of consist of, if you were to look at your returns in India on a particular investment, let's say that number is 10% for the sake of this conversation, and you were to have the similar sort of a asset class in US, and if you're based out of US, so the gains on that would be calculated basis 2 factors. First is going to be the currency appreciation That's going to happen. That is dollar versus rupee. And then the second thing is going to be around the inflation or the market returns on that. Typically in India, we have seen markets giving anywhere between 10 to 12%, and we have seen Dow Jones in US giving us anywhere at returns between 6 to 7%. But the capital appreciation of another 5 to 6% would sort of fill for that. So that's again math that needs to be put into place. And after all this, tax implication would happen, because as NRI tax implications would be different, as RNOR the tax implications are going to be different. So your net returns are still higher than those returns in India. And just to sort of visually understand this, I'll like to spend some 30 seconds on this, because this is important, going to be important for all of you. If you want to take a screenshot, feel free to. So from this graph, as you can see, the blue line is, which is returns in India, is trending high, and it looks like the returns in India, that means pulling all your investments, making those investments in India, is going to be the best deal. But what you need to do with the yellow and the red, which is your currency gain and returns in foreign currency, foreign country, you need to sort of sum it up. And then you need to look at those things. And I think this has to be looked, this is more like a journey also of a different instrument, different asset classes, how it needs to be done. So basically, this is a framework that you need to sort of spend some time. It will take some time to absorb also. You can get in touch with us. We can do the exact calculations and help you out on that also. But just to sort of summarize this, if you move back to country, if you move back to India, and you decide to move your capital also back to the country, I want to sort of emphasize on two things which are important to me. If your decision is sort of a temporary, and if you're still testing it out as an experiment, it's not advisable to move all your investments back to India, because moving your money back to India is going to be cheaper, but moving it back out of the country is going to be expensive. And the second thing is, even if you have done your calculations, you're good at it, you have a good friend, do soundboard it with a qualified advisor as a sort of a second opinion. It's going to be important for you. Now that some answer has sort of emerged around what needs to be done about the investments in the foreign land, Ram is thinking about how and where to invest in India and where not to also. I think obviously there are a lot of scams, a lot of things which keep happening. So again, the answer depends on the corpus, depends on your aspiration, depends on your goals. But before that, I would love to understand from all of you who are planning to move back to India, which of these following India investment options are you familiar with? Okay, sorry, my bad. Sorry. I think just you need to go back to your phone, and maybe if you're moved out of it, scan back. Okay, that's very interesting. REITs is leading.
Is there going to be a winner at the end of the session who answered like right for all the polls?
I think anybody who gets answers to all the questions is already a winner to this.
Right. Yeah. By the way, it's anonymous, so we wouldn't know.
Yeah. So wonderful. Happy to see that pretty much there is a good exposure to all the different kinds of investment options that, in addition to the traditional options of real estate, stock market, mutual funds, these are some of the government schemes and investment options you guys are familiar with. And if you are not, then I think this is a good time to sort of remember the name, maybe Google it, get in touch with us. We'll again help you understand this more deeply. Basically, the idea is if you transfer everything, holding cash for long term becomes an expense in India due to inflation. And hence, it's not a good idea to sort of hold a lot of cash or sit on a lot of cash, monetarily also and psychologically. So you should always think about talking to a qualified advisor, before deploying your money, because of two primary reasons. One is the depth of knowledge about a particular asset class and the historic performance of that. And second is the risk appetite. I often say this to a lot of clients of ours, that growth is not just a number. It is a number followed by something which you understand, so that you can have peaceful night's sleep. You will not want to put, let's say, 70% of your money into something which you don't understand. Right? So yeah, let's take the conversation ahead. Let's understand how does this work in terms of. Um, I'm sorry. Can we? Yeah. If you want to ask a question now, or should we take the questions toward and money? How do you want to go about this?
Yeah, we can take a question now.
Okay.
Just to break the thing, maybe. Vivek, you can go ahead.
Yeah. So I just had a quick question. So because you were talking about the, which is better, keeping it back in the US or bringing it back to India and how it works, I was just wondering if there's a formula that, you might already have worked out. I know one size doesn't fit all, but then is there an easy way to look at it from that perspective, right? Like, because given the tax year in the US is January to December and it's different in India, what is the best time to, uh, bring the money back? And then when does somebody get into RONR? Is that the best time to, then pull the money back to India? Or how does that work? Like, is there some sort of a formula, or like what is the best time for 401k to bring it back? What's the best time for the investment? Like something to that effect, if there is one, right? Maybe there isn't, but I was just wondering, I mean, for those who haven't gone through, to the level of detail that you might know, I was just wondering if there is some sort of guidance to say, you do this, and then you have RNR for 2 years, then that's the time you bring back some of this money, and then that's where you get the maximum benefit out of it. Just wondering if there is something to that effect.
Got it. Got it. Vivek, there is no formula, one size fit, as you rightly said. There is no one size fitting formula. But obviously, looking at the statements, looking at your current situation and your numbers, we can figure out a comprehensive strategy that could take care of your investments, savings, as well as your tax part. And that is definitely would require a private conversation. So you can feel free to book the conversation on our website. Website link would be shown towards the end, or I can just, one of my teammates would put it in the website on the call chat, and then we can do this. This is because more of a private conversation can be worked out. We have done this for some consumers. We can do this again for you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thank you.
Cool. Yeah. I know I'm slightly rushing into things, but I just want to address the queries which have also come in, while also giving a download on the things which are important to many of you. So now that we are coming on the topic of debt, ongoing loans, there's a question about what should we do with the ongoing loan that we have taken in the foreign land, that we have taken in US, UK. So it's advisable to close all the liabilities before moving back. And not just because of the administrative headache, but more importantly, because of this reason, what you see on the screen, that your liabilities should always be in the same currency as your income. And I guess after this, you can understand very well if you've taken, let's say, a mortgage of $100,000, and tomorrow, if the dollar to rupee conversion appreciates, let's say it becomes 2x, then the amount you have to pay back from while sitting in India will actually become 2x for you. And this is not just theoretical. This has happened in the past between 2011 August to August 2013. In those 2 years, dollar to rupee conversion went from 45 rupees to 65 rupees. So nearly a 50% appreciation in the 2 years which has happened. And you can't control currency appreciation risk. This is the most important thing that you need to understand. Hence, it's important to close your liabilities before coming. So if you close your liabilities, let's say if you have to sell the house, he's thinking about buying a house in India right after landing in India. But there are a lot of things which keep coming to us through our cell phones, through the newspapers, and read about scams, read about real estate fraud, and a lot of things related to real estate. It is a very different industry. It's a very hands-on sort of an industry. It works very differently. Not trying to scare anyone. My agenda today over here is to talk about things which are important in terms of sound legal vetting, working with a reputed name in the market to ensure that the delivery of the project happens on time. And more importantly, if we were to sort of again summarize this, there is a sort of a checklist of around 8 to 10 documents which you should be knowing. And these are the documents. starting from title document to channel document, incumbent certificate, occupancy certificate, mutation letter, conversion certificate, tax receipts, car allotment letter, and a couple of more like these. I think getting a hold of these 8 to 10 documents will not just ensure that you are having a good hold or a grip on the real estate, what you already have or what you're planning to buy, but it's also getting hold of these documents is important for your ancestral properties, be it by any one of your family members. Uh, so that it ensures that these things legally stay with you and there is no situation of dispute. Moving on, let's talk about taxes. I think we have got fairly long list of questions around taxes and tax residencies. And as you can see on the screen, it's not that straightforward in terms of being an NRI or being a resident. RNOR is an interesting category. Many of you would be knowing about this. So Ram's question is also around the same. How would taxes apply to my different sources of income once I land back in India? So it depends on the date of you moving back, very interestingly. And the piece of advice on this is if you can plan it well, if you can time it well, you can enjoy the benefits of RNOR tax residency for a couple of years also, not just for like the year you are returning back. So I want to know from all of you before actually moving ahead and talking more about this. Do you know about the tax residency changes, how it works for you, how the tax residency things would work out once you move back? Again, the idea over here is to give you a brief about each of the tax residency statuses. But again, to leverage that, you have to sit down, understand, and sort of plan that. And there's a huge upside to doing that, by the way. There's almost 60% people in the audience do not know how tax residency changes work. So let's understand this. It basically is a function of how much time you spent in India. And if I were to break this down in 3 buckets, I would say if you've spent less than 120 days in India, and if you're purely an NRI, taxation system would work for you. If you spend more than 182 days, that is more than half of the year in India, stayed back in India, the resident mechanism would work for you. But if you're somewhere in the middle, then I think the RNOR thing kicks in. And there are 3-4 mechanisms by which you can leverage this, basically spending 9 out of 10 years. From the previous 10 years, you have been an NRI, or maybe spending less than 729 days in the previous 7 years. And there is more technical. It keeps getting more technical if I were to sort of talk about this. And hence, I always recommend that you need to sort of sit down with the CA and understand how you can leverage this RNOR status for you. But just to sort of summarize one-liners for how the taxation system would work for you until your NRI status is live, only Indian income is taxed in India if you have the NRI status. If you have a resident status, that means you have spent more than half a year, overall global income is taxed as per Indian tax laws. Obviously, DTA comes into picture, double taxation and avoidance agreement. That means if you have paid X amount over there, if you have paid X amount in your current country and the tax rates are higher, then you just have to pay the difference over here.
Can we take a question, Raj?
Sure. Yeah. How about I cover this piece and then
sure thing,
it's the last slide on this. The RNOR status, and I think this is important to a lot of people. This should be important to a lot of people. Indian income is taxed in India, and income from foreign businesses managed through India is taxed in India. But there's going to be no taxation on your capital gains, on your basically all your passive income sources, capital gains, interest, dividends, rentals, retirement benefit. So again, paint this in your head. If you were to sort of completion of your service, and if you move back India in your retiree years, from later years of your life, and you have retirement fund coming in. So basically, there's not going to be any taxation if under RNOR status, you are doing this. But if you move back, let's say 5 years later, you are sort of withdrawing money from your one of your investments and your status has changed to resident, then I think a significant tax will be calculated. Let's take the question.
Yes, Pawan, you raised your hand. You can go ahead. Please take the mic.
Yeah, so I have a question regarding how the tax implication would be in the US while you are in RNOR in India. So I assume that if I time it well, I can be a non-resident of US. Let's say if I travel back to India in before end of January, then I'm less than 30 days in US and I can qualify, like I can be a non-resident of US. And in case if I go back to India, I would be RNOR for 2 years based on the slide you just mentioned.
Correct.
In which case, I was assuming, can I skip the taxes on the capital gains for the investments I have in USA during this period? Where because from my understanding, like when you are a non-resident of USA, you can sell capital gains and pay no tax in USA because you are a non-resident. And when you are in India, since you are RNOR status, you wouldn't be paying any taxes as well for foreign income. So is that a catch there where you can actually completely skip taxes on the capital gains for the investments in US during this period?
Raj, can I take this?
Yeah, sure.
So definitely what you are saying theoretically can work out for you. But remember, technically speaking, RNOR means you are resident in India with a special status. So it is generally said that you cannot be a resident in none of the countries. There are special laws for that. RNOR means you are resident in India and your capital gains arising from income outside India will not be taxed in India. If those incomes are non-taxable in the US as well, technically you don't have to pay any tax, but it would still be better for you to report the income in both the countries for future purposes.
So if I understand correctly, we shouldn't hide this from any country in the returns, but
Correct.
we can still avoid the paying taxes in both
Yes.
places.
Yes.
Great. I see Ritu, you raised your hand. If it's the same topic, please go ahead.
Yeah, for the same topic, would it be applicable if one is a US citizen? So if one is a citizen, but they move before like January, what Pawan was saying, in that case, would it apply to them and only for non-US citizens?
So this part will work differently. Once you are in India, any income arising in India is taxable. You have not reported yourself as a resident Indian, so things will work differently for you. RN, like in terms of taxation, you will be a foreign national residing in India, and then they will look only at your Indian income for that period.
But the 2-year RNOR status would be still applicable whether one is a US citizen or not, right?
It is not guaranteed that you are RNOR for 2 years. I think this is a open question, open point for everybody. RNOR is not as straightforward that you land in India and for 2 years you are RNOR. It looks at as far back up to 7 years and how many days you have spent in India in the past 7 years. So it is not that you land in India and you become an RNOR. It is a function of how many days you have spent over the past few years and also how many days you are spending in the country in the current year.
Yeah, I got it. So I look at that calculation, but that rule applies same way to both US citizens and non-US citizens, right?
Yes. In terms of tax categorization, yes. But how US will tax your capital gain, like from a perspective that you are a US national living in India, that part needs to be checked.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Mukund, there's a question in the chat if you have seen. From Sri. It says under RNOR stats with regard to income from foreign business managed from India, can we claim credits for the tax paid in foreign countries, something like Article 23? If you haven't interested, can you please?
I think this will again be a little bit nuanced. It will depend on the DTAA with that country. If we are allowing tax credit for that type of business from that country, with some countries in the agreement and US itself in the agreement, some businesses have a different consideration, other businesses have a different consideration. You will need to look carefully what your business is classified as, what tax have you paid, and then in India, what portion of it is available as a credit.
Great. Okay. I think we have a lot more slides to go, but we'll just take one really quick question on this topic, if it is from, let's say, Shipra Agarwal. If you can please come on mic, please.
Hey, so my question was about Roth IRAs and Roth 401ks. So we know that those accounts, if you withdraw them after 60 years of age, they're not taxable in the US, and you get all of your investments and all the returns tax-free in the US. Now, let's say I've been in India for a good amount of years, where I have become a resident of India. I'm no longer in the RNOR status. I'm a resident of India, which is going to be the case by the time I have to liquidate those assets. Does the US rule that you don't pay taxes apply in India as well? Or I will actually have to pay taxes in India on those retirement accounts, which are specifically tax-free withdrawals in US?
This is a good question. Until very recently, these were taxable in India. All the capital gains were taxable in India. However, I believe in 2021, the government has released a new edition in the income tax laws just to address this specific issues, where they have added a section which says that pension investments withdrawal from foreign countries, specific foreign countries, will not be taxable in India. And as of now, UK, US, and Canada are covered. These are the only three countries covered. If you have any pension-related investment in these countries, even if you become an Indian resident, when you withdraw them in those countries, they will not be taxable in India.
And 401k, like 401k and IRAs are considered pension accounts because they're not
Yes.
called pension accounts. Okay.
Yes. But one thing I would like to say is,
It can
with
change.
respect to Indian government, things change very frequently.
Okay.
So I really cannot comment what the situation will be, let's say, if it's a decade away or 15 years away. But if you were to
Understood,
do that now, it will be tax-free.
That's awesome.
Great. Raj, do you want to continue with the slides? We have a few more hands up, but I think maybe we can cover a few more slides and then get back to them, or we'll just keep stalling.
Sure. I know the questions related to taxations there are a lot of questions which have also come to us. Basically, the idea, I think, is known to the audience now, that there is a huge upside in planning these taxes, planning your tax residency once you sort of move back to the country. Yeah. So let's say this is all about your investments, all about your income that's coming from foreign. But how can you go about saving more taxes in India? Because Indian tax laws are very different. Indian tax laws work very differently, and it actually depends, because Indian tax laws are very unique in its own way. We're going to look at a couple of pay slips where we're going to do some comparison between how the UK pay slip and the India pay slip looks like. But more importantly, there are a few fundamentals how you should go about planning your taxes once you have moved back to India, once you have moved into the resident tax, once you moved into the residency status, resident status. So how well do you structure your salary? What deductions do you claim? Do you plan your taxes at a family level? Do you operate as a business for your Indian income? And I think there are a bunch of questions around this, which needs to be addressed. For example, let's look at this pay slip. Let's spend a minute on this. As you can see on the left, this is one of the UK pay slip we are looking at, and there are only a few avenues which you can see on the left. But when you look at the highlighted section on the right side, which is part of the Indian pay slip, house rent allowance, child education allowance, DNS allowance. And I think basically these are different avenues which can be used to reduce your taxable income in India once you sort of move back. Hence, it's important that you plan your taxes, plan and file your taxes with a qualified CA to save significant, to take that significant upside on the taxes, which is again your hard-earned money. And this is not just going to be one year exercise. This is going to be a journey. Your tax planning would also evolve with your career. In the early years, it will be more about centered around deductions and salary structuring components in the salary. In the mid years, it would be about planning your taxes at a family level, because there is so much only tax you can save on single PAN card. Using things like HUF, Hindu Undivided Family sort of mechanisms to save more taxes. And as you move sort of in the later years, or if you are coming back as a sort of in your 50s or late 40s, I think operating as a business can also be leveraged to save significant amount of taxes. But all this needs to be sort of done over a period of time with a person sitting, because life will move from a Form 16 to a balance sheet at some point of time. I think Mugun, you can take care of the questions in the chat. Meanwhile, I'll continue over here.
Great.
Save the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So I think tax residency is a dense topic. More time would be required. More conversations would be required. Let's talk about insurance and how healthcare works in India. So here's a question which is on the screen. Will your foreign insurance policy support you in India? What do you think? Okay. I think people are typing questions, but indicatively, I've understood that 60-odd% people, 65% people think that their foreign insurance policy is not going to be sufficient working in India. Most likely, it will not. Your foreign insurance policy most likely will not cover for you in India. Also, because the healthcare system works very differently in India. Significantly, there are significant differences how it works in the Western countries, how it works over here. And hence, one of the healthcare topic I had touched in the beginning, I want to ask, do you have any idea of how things work in India in terms of insurance? That's exactly the question Ram was being asked, which he did not have an answer to. So Ram went on to explaining that Indian healthcare system looks cheap, but with certain measures. It has significant reliance on private players. There are high out-of-pocket expenditures, and it inflates at 15%. And I think this is a government-quoted number. In metro cities, this number is going to be even on the higher side. So you basically, in totality, will need a health insurance policy for you and for your loved one, for your family, so to encounter a situation related to health. And don't forget to carry your medical records. But buying in policy is just not going to be enough. You need the right one. By right, I mean you need to understand your insurance policy in India. What are the goods? What are the gaps? What's a copay? What's a deductible? I think some of these terms are also familiar in the US and UK ecosystem, but there are restoration benefits and there are bonuses associated with it. And how do these function? Because we have encountered situation where people have an insurance policy in the pocket, but still have to pay out of their pocket. So please don't just fall for another health insurance policy for the sake of having a policy. And quickly moving on to the last section for today, which is around inheritance. How to ensure my assets in India and abroad are smoothly passed on to my legal heirs. That's the question. And I think the simplest answer on that would be succession works very differently from country to country. You should have an Indian will to protect your assets in India, and you should have a separate will for your international asset, for your global asset, for your foreign assets. And there should be a reference between the two, that you should mention about that having a US will in your Indian will, and you should mention about having an Indian will into your US will. Keeping them separate is a simpler way to manage your assets, to pass on your assets, transmit your assets. These are some of the keywords what you would be possibly seeing or would have heard about them, because succession laws work very differently in each country. But in India, a lot of people are familiar with the concept of nominee, and I think so is the concept in other countries also. So what do you think? Your nominee can use your investments in case of your demise, because all this while government and different at a policy level, there has been a lot of push to mark a nominee. Even if you open a bank account, you open a demat account, you buy an insurance policy, everywhere you have to mark a nominee. It's sort of a mandatory exercise now. But do you think they can use your investments in case of your demise? Wow, this is like almost 90% people are saying they can. But if on the face of it, it looks correct. There is 1.4 lakh crore worth of money sitting idle in bank accounts, insurance policy, and there is nobody to claim. Hence, it's important to mark a nominee, but it's not going to be enough. In absence of a will or a succession certificate, your nominee is just a guardian of your investment. They can't access or use them. Yeah, that's true. And will writing in India is a very simplistic process. It's just there is very low awareness around this. People just don't know how to go about this. Will execution can be done at the comfort of your home also. And just to summarize everything, what I have quickly skimmed through in the last 40-45 minutes is there are certain things, there are certain do's, there are certain don'ts. Very clearly, what's the right time to move? Things you need to plan is your right time to move back, your tax residency status for first couple of years. And if you don't, to leverage the upside, it's important to plan that. Managing your investments and savings and get a local community and network. Something like Back to India is doing a fantastic job to help people like you. Things you should definitely avoid is buying an investment or an insurance plan from a bank. Not against any particular bank, but in general, if a financial product is being too much being pushed upon you, and if you don't understand, please avoid that. Mixing insurance and investment is a bad idea, always, irrespective of the country. Following ad hoc advices without seeking validation on this is often happens with us when we are anxious about certain big decisions in life. And copy pasting your peers or your friends or your colleagues roadmap is definitely not a great idea for you. That will not ensure a smooth landing for many of you. Now, I know this has been quite a lot of gyan, quite a lot of information that has come in the last 40-45 minutes. And if you're overwhelmed, if you're confused, not a problem. Let's set up some time. You can pick up a slot from our website, set up some time. We'll do a one-on-one private conversation. But if you're thinking what next, what you're basically chasing is peace of mind in the domain of finance also. And for that, you need to sort of balance your investments, your savings, your insurances, and your taxes. Basically, you would require a lot of hand-holding on this because we have seen that people needing that. And no one internet post or information on internet is going to be enough for that. It requires personalized hand-holding. What you can do is, there's two options. There are two options. One is you can do this by being curious, researching thoroughly, talking to a lot of people. You have to basically invest time to do this. Or you can choose the option two is seek financial advice only from qualified professionals. These are some of the registered qualified professionals in India who we work with, and they work independently also. We are good with option two. That's what we offer to you and anybody who comes to Turtle. Is that we are not into the business of promising any returns or taking control of your money. The only promise we make to anybody who comes at Turtle is that we are going to get you access to right financial advice delivered by qualified professionals to help you achieve your financial well-being. That's the only promise. These are some of the salient features, how we do things differently. We don't charge money basis how much is your income or how big is your corpus. We have a very flat fee advisory model. We start with a free diagnosis call. There's going to be unlimited one-on-one sessions if you decide to move ahead with Turtle membership. There are going to be periodic check-ins. Things we proudly don't do is we're not into the business of stock tipping or giving illegal advice, no commitment on any fixed returns, not selling any commission-led products, and definitely we don't spam. Once you say no, we stop there. That's our website. The URL is there. There's a QR code. You can scan this using your phone now. And it's just that the approach is very hand in glove. The approach is very personalized. Hence, there is a sort of a limit in number of clients we work in a year. Like for this year, we can accommodate only 100 members so far. So if this is something which feels right, you want to try it further, do book the first diagnosis call, which is free. Understand the product deeply. We'll discuss your queries personally over there, and we can take it from there. So yeah, I'm done. Let's move on to the Q&A. How do we figure out how you can put your questions on Slido? Yeah, sorry.
If you can maybe leave that the QR code and the website on, please, the slide,
Yeah.
so people can go there. Meanwhile, maybe we can take a question from Harshita. She's been raising her hand for some time. Harshita, if you're there, please take the mic.
Hi. My question is around HSA. I don't know if you're aware of it, but HSA is health savings account here in the US, and we can mainly use the funds for medical purposes. And the way it works in US is that we can. It's a triple taxed advantage account, and what that means is we invest money before taxes. We can use it, and we can use the money without paying taxes if we use it on medical services, and we can also invest the money, and the money that it grows into is also tax free. How does that work if we move to India? Can we still use HSA funds in India on medical services?
So in terms of using it in India and taking that withdrawal, theoretically, it seems yes, you can do it. Practically, at least none of our clients have done it. But based on understanding and research, yes, you are allowed to do it. There are procedures set where you can submit a claim against expenses made in any country. I believe the exact term that they use is qualified medical expenses. So you have to check under your HSA plan which medical expenses are covered. And under any country you make them, you can claim that from your HSA account.
Okay, thank you.
Great. We have Ankit Srivastav. Ankit, if you're there, please take the mic with your question.
Hi. Yeah, I think I left the question in the chat as well. Just if you can elaborate around that. So if I'm moving from here in the US and I have a primary residence that I'm going to sell, and I have been in this house for like more than 4 or 5 years. Like, what are the implications around that? I think in the US I don't have to pay any tax for the case because it's the primary residence. But is there any implication transferring that money to India? I don't think so, right? But yeah, what's your take on that?
Unless you are a resident in India, there is no tax implication for this capital gain. So you can just bring it back to India and there will be no taxation as such.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Mukund, there's a question about what kind of corpus would be comfortable to stay in Delhi NCR.
Yes, I think I try to partially answer that question as well. And I think when Raj and me were working on this presentation, I really wanted to call it "It Depends," because for almost all these questions, you cannot have a straight formula, you cannot have a straight answer, but you can definitely have a set of factors that you need to look in, which will help you arrive at the right answer. So when I'm talking about what kind of corpus do I need, it will depend. And you clearly mentioned that you want to move to Delhi NCR. It will depend if you have your own house or if you're living on rental income, which means there will be a fixed cost associated with that. What sort of a lifestyle you wish to maintain, what sort of expenses that will require. So if you have any inputs based on that, you can get an estimate on what will be month-to-month expenses, which will need to be borne out of that corpus. If you intend to keep working, if you want to stop working completely after you return, that will also play a role in terms of cash flows. Like after all this number, once we have a target number that you want per month, accounting for any other goals that you know apart from just survival, how long do you want the corpus to last? If you are dependent on rent or you are planning to purchase your own home, after all these factors are made, we will arrive at a cost of per month of living, which can then be converted into a numerical amount which you can park in risk-free Indian assets so that you can get by passively.
Great. I hope that answers the question. Let's go to Ashish Dash. Ashish, if you're there, please take the mic. Okay, let's move to Sachin. Sachin, if you're there, please take the mic with your question.
Yeah, so I just have a quick question. So, like I bought some stake in India in some business, and then it's generating me some monthly income. So does that like first question, do I have to pay tax on that income? I think yes. And is there some tax-free allowance that I get on that income as well?
So up to 7 lakhs, I think you can get by, like even if you're reporting, you won't have any tax liability. If the business is deducting anything, you will get that back as refund as well. After that, it depends on how you report your Indian income, if you can claim any deductions in India. That depends on what other assets you have in India, what other investments you are doing in India.
Okay. I
Okay,
hope that
cool.
answers the
Thanks.
question. Great. Harshita, you've raised your hands again. If it's a different question, please go ahead.
Yes, I have one more question. So you mentioned something about pension plans being not taxed in India, and there's a list of pension plans from UK and US. Is there a trusted source where I can see what these pension plans are specifically for US? Because if I understand it right, pension usually means it's coming from an employer. And in the US, we don't per se call it a pension plan, but we have retirement accounts. So some of them are not sponsored, but provided by employer, which is 401k. But there are individual retirement accounts as well, which are not tied to your employer. So my concern is that will it be, if I have an IRA account, will it be considered a pension plan according to India?
Correct. So what they are actually talking about is investments done for retirement. So it can be a pension, it can be an IRA, it can be a 401k. And these are specifically like maybe not in the law, but in cases being used. And these are definitely counted within the scope of uh, this section in the IT Act. So all of this and they have specified the countries as well. So all of these plans in UK, US, and Canada are actually tax-free when you want to do it after the retirement age in those countries. I think in the chat there was a question: if I do an early withdrawal, what will happen? If you do an early withdrawal, that will be counted as a capital gain in the source country as well as in India. So in India, you have to pay tax on that. But if I look at it from a practical perspective, the at least in the US, the penalty plus the capital gain you pay in there is more than the total capital gains tax rate in India, the long-term capital gains tax rate. So effectively, you still won't be paying any tax.
Great. Let's move to Naresh. Naresh, if you're there, please take the mic.
Hello.
Yes,
Yeah,
Naresh, go ahead.
yeah. My question is related to 401k. I think slightly the question was answered, but just wanted to confirm. So if we have a 401k amount in USA and when we are moving back to India, is it advisable to withdraw all of them in terms of the tax implication I'm asking? At the same time, everything at the same time, or we should break it down into multiple years and withdraw all the amount?
Understood. So I think there are a couple of factors. Again, there will be no one right answer for everybody, but couple of factors that you can consider is, let's say you choose to keep the amount in the US. You have to maintain that until, like if you want to wait till the maturity, you have to wait till you turn 60 and maintain that, keep a track on that account. There will be some effort on your part. So first of all, you can also look at what is the amount. If it's a significant enough amount, if it's a smaller amount, you just don't want the hassle of keeping it around. If you are keeping it around, then you can also look at it from your overall portfolio perspective. So once you're back in India, most of your income and investments will be in INR. Do you want to keep that diversification? Do you want to have some assets in dollar? Do you want to have some assets outside of the Indian system? Is the amount significant enough? Post that, the taxation also depends on what your status is at the time of withdrawal. So if you are planning it properly and you see that you come back and you have RNOR status also for a couple of years, you can not do it immediately. Come back and see what your how things are working out, and then take a call on this. Even when you become a resident and you're doing an early withdrawal, I think in 90+% of the cases, effective tax rate will still remain zero. But in some particular edge cases, you might have to pay a small amount of tax. So the decision totally depends on like your life stage, what your investment situation is, how much amount have you put in, how willing you are to keep up account and maintain it and file returns or whatever compliances are required in another country. And based on all those factors, you can come to a final conclusion.
Okay,
Yeah.
so just a follow-up question. So if, let's say I'm planning to move back and I want to move all the money, right? I don't want to wait all the way till my retirement.
Mhm.
And so if I understood, so if I, as soon as I move, I'm a non-resident in India initially, at least for the first year. So at that time, we should not withdraw the
Uh,
401k
that is
once we
not
become.
exactly correct. Let's say you move in April or May or June.
Mhm.
You become an Indian resident in that year. You'll eventually end up becoming an Indian resident in that year itself. So
Right.
in this case, unless you qualify for the RNOR, uh, RNOR classification, you will have
Mhm.
to pay on those withdrawals as well. That is why when we were talking about what will be the tax implication, it depends on a lot of factor, and timing certainly plays a role.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, Mukul.
Great. I think we've taken a lot of questions on 401k. So if anyone has a different topic, that'll be nice. So let's go to Ritu. Ritu, if you want to take the mic.
Yeah, sure. Actually, it's similar on. So if I withdraw after an RNOR status, so whatever time it is, and you mentioned IRA, 401k, Roth, all will be treated like pension. But for example, in US, because IRA and 401k is pre-tax, whereas Roth IRA is after tax. So US
Mhm.
will have the taxes on those IRA but India, you're saying all three will be treated same?
Yes. So if you are taking it out at the time of retirement, I think 59 and a half is the age that they have specified. In India, there will be no tax implications.
Even after RNOR is over.
Yes, yes, yes.
Got it. Thank you.
Great. Shipra?
Hey, I have two questions. One is on passive income. And this is not RNOR, right? Let's say I'm a tax resident of India
Mhm.
and I keep some investments. Is passive gains until I liquidate, right? Like it's all
Mhm.
paper gains.
Mhm.
Uh, are those taxable in India? Do I have to report those? That's my first question. Because passive gains, you don't have to report and you're not taxed on them in the US unless you kind of realize those gains. So that was my first question. And then the second question is there also like recommended, like, typically it's like, hey, 60% in stocks, 40% in bonds, or 70% in stocks or 30% in bonds is like some allocation that's recommended in different investment instruments. Is there also some allocation of like, hey, if you are staying in India, but you have investments in US, you should typically like have 60% of your investments in India, 40% in US, or it all depends.
So on the first question, in India, income is taxed basis accrual. So let's say you have a deposit in the US, which is accruing, increasing over time, and you take it out in the fifth year. But in India, taxes will have to be reported and paid in all the years. Uh, that is
But
how it
only when
works.
I take out, right? I wouldn't have to pay it for the 4 years.
No,
Uh,
you will have to pay on the accruals for the 4 years. I think they don't do this on market linked instruments, but let's say if it's a deposit, if it's rental, if it's a long term lease, and you're accruing some amount in which is fixed in the first year, you have to report it and pay tax on it in
I'm
India.
I'm talking about equities. I'm talking about
In
stocks.
equity, no, no, in equity, once you realize, that will be capital gain and that will be taxed according to capital gains.
Okay, so what do you pay accruals on? What kind of investments do you pay accruals on?
Let's say you have a deposit. If you have a house that you've given on a long term lease where the payout is at the end of 2, 3, 4 years, uh,
Okay.
or if you have any fixed income securities, if you have any bonds where the return is sort of guaranteed and you have it, okay, this is the profit that I will make from this. The year you accrue it, you have to report it report it in India and pay tax on that.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, maybe this is more complex. I'll try to get a financial advisor on that as well. I want to understand where passive income is not taxed versus what kind of US income will be taxed.
For your second question, it really depends on your situation. So, if you are closer to retirement and you do not have too many working years left, and you plan to live off your corpus, more and more towards that age, more and more will be going to fixed income versus equities. Then US versus India also depends on what your preferences are, what your risk appetite is, where do you want to be diversified, how much compliance you are willing to take, if the amount in US that you are leaving behind, is it significant enough for you to bear those compliance costs? If you have
Okay.
any upcoming goals in India that are very near, then you would want money here. You would not want them to be in market-linked
Okay.
securities.
Okay, got it. Okay, sounds good.
Perfect. Thanks, Mukund. Let's switch to Ankita. Ankita, quickly, if you can take the mic, please.
Yeah, hi. Sorry, this is Abhinav. I just used like my wife's account to log in. So
No, it's good.
basically, my question is, let's say we are planning to move next year, and we have like around 500,000 or so assets in US in bonds, equities, and something like that, and we don't want to touch that, but we still want to get the dividends every year, but we want the money in 401k and everything which you earn to live in US for our kids, and then start a life afresh in India with decent pay jobs in there, and we have some savings in India. So, like, is our first question is it possible that is it a valid possibility that we just take the dividends and transfer them every year to India, and then let the everything grow here, and then on dividend we just pay tax in Indian like in India and not in US. Like we'll not be double taxed in both the countries on the dividends. And yes, we just want to leave them everything here for the kids. When they grow up, they can come back and they have a good life setup here.
So as long as you have income in both the countries, in US you will have to report your US income. In India, also you will have to report your US income once you become a resident. Now on those dividends, first US taxes will be applicable, whatever is applicable. If it's zero, you can bring it all to India and then Indian taxes will apply. If some US taxes applicable on those incomes, you pay that first and then you deduct that amount from you get credit for that in your Indian income tax bill. So let's say in US, the amount of tax you pay on this income, it may be from rental, it may be from dividend, it may be from bond interest. Let's say the tax you pay on this income is 20%. Whereas in India, this capital gain is taxed at 12.5%. So then in India, you won't have to pay any tax. But let's say in US, the tax is 5% for your income, and India, it's 12.5%. So the remaining 7.5% you'll have to pay in India. That's how it will be.
Okay. And so, as a part of the service offerings which you provide, do you have some tax advisors who can, like, right now I use CPAs here in US, which help me do the similar thing what you are saying. Like I have in Indian income also coming, rental income and other income. So they help me offset these taxes. Like, okay, I just file my taxes in US, and then in India I use my Form 26AS to say that this much tax I have paid in India or TDS, and they offset it. So similarly, I would need similar CPAs to do that for me when I'm in India, who can take care of US as well as Indian filing. So do you provide services with CPAs like that? Like,
correct. So once you are in India, the roles will reverse. You will have to primarily file in India and claim whatever you filed there as rebate here. So that is a service that we do provide.
okay, thank you.
Great. We've overshot by like almost 10 minutes now. So Mukund, do you want to take maybe 2 more questions before we wrap up? Is that
Sure.
okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's switch to Vinod. Vinod, if you want to take the mic, please.
Hey, everyone. So for the RNOR status, so you said we could avoid tax when you're in that status for the gains that you make in US and also in India, right? So, but if you're a US permanent resident, does it still hold that you can avoid tax when you're in RNOR status?
No. So again, I will clarify. RNOR is a subcategory under resident Indian. So if you are under the RNOR category, that means you are resident in India and you have to report all your income in India. The only thing that RNOR will allow you to do is income that is generated on assets outside India and is collected outside India will be tax free for you.
Okay.
I think for particular cases as such, I think, and this is in general to people who have specific questions, the answers that we are giving, I think in finance, almost every time the answer is basically it depends. So these are one-on-one conversations where we would love to have a lot more inputs so that we can at least give you something which is more actionable. And I think easiest way to do it is on the screen right now. Come and have a conversation with us. That is what we love to do. This is a conversation first platform. And we look at your specific case and try to provide solutions accordingly.
Yes. Great. So let's move to Madan. Madan, if you want to take the mic and ask your question, please.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for all the information, guys. My question is, we have a property over here, and the question revolves around, so is it better to sell the property right now, or let it grow for another couple of years? So it's all about what do we do with the capital gains if we are selling it in a couple of years, right? So is that RNOR status that you're talking about, whatever gains we get, so that would be tax-free within the first couple of years if we are qualified as a RNOR?
Yes. So I think here again, you will have to provide some more data and plan your, let's say you want to hold it for 2 years and you have an end date. So you will have to uh, give some data to see over here to calculate till what time you will be able to hold the RNOR status. Until then, if you sell it, that will not be taxed in India. But practically speaking, this situation will end up in, like, let's say till 26 September, you will be in RNOR status, or till the 26 FI. That means it gives you a deadline that you have to sell before this. Otherwise, the capital gains tax rate in India will be applicable to your sale proceeds, like the profits that you make.
Okay, so any amount of capital gains that we have after that couple of years will be taxable, even though in US for the first 500K or something, it is non-taxable on a sale of a property.
Yes. Yes.
I see. Okay, got it. Thanks.
Great. So before jumping to the next question, just want to remind everyone that most of the questions we keep repeating, and the answer is typically it depends, like Mukund and Raj said. So I strongly suggest all of you to check out their website. It's on turtlefinance.in, and of course you can scan the QR code over there as well and take one-on-one sessions with them. These guys are really different in the approach they have. It's a conversation first approach, like they say, and it's what I personally found is that they don't they don't push anything without you actually needing it. So please take advantage of that. I'm hoping that you all would have scanned that QR code on the screen. If you haven't yet, please do it. Great. We'll just take one more question from Prabhu. Prabhu, if you are there, please take the mic and ask your question.
Sure, thank you. And again, it may be very specific in our case, but if somebody is married filing jointly in the US, but we are in the process of transitioning over to India, and basically, let's say I'm staying in the US, but my wife has moved in, let's say mid-June. How does it impact the filing status, either in the US or in India? What would be our tax filing obligations?
Okay. So how it would work in the US, I think I'll have to consult my expert. That is something that I personally haven't worked on with any of our clients. But in India, there is no such concept of filing together. So every individual has to file a separate return, and there is no combined returns that can be filed.
Okay.
Great.
Okay, so in this case, if a wife has moved to India, let's say in mid-June, for this financial year, she would be required to file taxes on any income that she has. Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Great, wonderful. Raj, if you're there, maybe Mukund, you can take a break. You've been answering a lot of questions. Raj, can you just quickly give us a overview of how does it work? Like if someone approaches you with one of these questions, how does it work from there? Like, do you have an initial conversation and you take it from there, or how is the process like? Just for clarity's sake.
Yes, I'll address that. Yeah, Mukund, thank you answering that. I was just typing that answer. Thank you, send it. I think before coming to how your journey is going to look like, there's a WhatsApp sort of a plugin on our website. That's a official WhatsApp hotline. Because Mani has been mentioning that there are daily queries coming in from many of you. It's a free service on that hotline, which is in addition to the membership. So you can drop your questions over there and we will address these queries, because I think a lot of people have a lot of questions. And obviously you can come to us, do the karma conversation, which is our discovery call. And once you sort of do that discovery call, which is less of a discovery, more of a diagnosis, and if you decide to move ahead, then obviously after the payment, the journey is more like first setting up a kickoff call which is more like setting you up for success for the next 1 year. So the kickoff call is more about what things you should be discussing, because most people in addition to their current ongoing situation, are not able to foresee what questions they should be asking each of these advisors. So there are a set of questions which we sort of showcase to you.
Raj, what's the difference between a discovery call and a kickoff call?
Yeah, so as I was saying, karma conversation and discovery call is more of a diagnosis where imagine that to be more like a blood test. We capture some of your information, your numbers, and towards the end, there is a report generated, which is again free of cost, which tells you what are the goods and gaps in your current personal finances. And that is a factor for you to decide if you are good in what areas you should be working on, whether those gaps you want to fix it with Turtle or anybody out in the market. Once you decide to move ahead, the kickoff call is more about like introductory of services, how the next 1 year is going to look like, what each of the advisors would be giving to you in terms of a report, how these conversations are going to work around. So typically we have seen with the clients we have so far, it's a journey of 12 to 13 calls in a year. Where you sit down with your investment advisor, let's say 3 to 4 sessions, a couple of sessions with your CA, couple of sessions with your insurance advisor, followed by the legal advisor on inheritance and succession, and lastly a credit card advisor. So there are 5 verticals today bundled into one membership. And however, there is no capping on number of calls. It's not that you have to do only 12 or 13 calls. At any point of time, you have a query, you put it on the hotline, and if a call is required, we set up that call basis mutual availability. And
how's your fee like, Raj? Like, do you go the traditional route or?
So we are a fixed fee platform. I think Mukund has mentioned that as of this year, we charge flat fee of 10,000 rupees for a year. So this membership has an annual fee of 10,000 rupees in the Indian currency as of today. For the 100 members we are onboarding today. And yeah, that's all about the advisory fees. Anything which is executionary, let's say you have to file your RTR or you have to get your bill registered in the court. Those are smaller value-added services which are also optional. Not everyone needs it, but what everyone needs comes bundled together in a membership which is priced at 10,000 rupees for it.
Okay, someone's asking, is there a way to have a discovery session being anonymous?
I think all the information we capture over there, we do not take it to the T. You can give me indicative number. We can run that exercise in such a way so that the report can be created in such a way that your actual numbers are not used. So there is a way to sort of.
Got it. And as I understand, you do have like a team of insurance advisors and all these different verticals like you mentioned. Is that right? And then
yes, so we
as required, right?
Yeah. So I think from once you sort of move into the membership, then one-on-one conversations happen with each of the subject matter expertise. So in the world of investment, we work only with SEBI registered investment advisor as of today. So they have a legal responsibility to make money only from advice. Basically, we are not a platform which is commission first. We don't make money from commission. Everything is advisory first, so that just to ensure incentives are aligned.
Got it. A few questions coming in the chat. Does the 10K include calls with all financial experts?
Yes.
Shipra?
Yes.
Okay, great. And what does the fee? What does fee cover? As in, what things are included in this? I think he's asking about the 10K. What is included in the 10K? Maybe that's a better question.
What's included in the 10K, as I mentioned, conversations are included. It's an advisory first platform. So all the 5 advisors, you sit down and do private conversations with them over the course of a year. So these conversations are included into this. Anything which is an executionary services, as I mentioned, like filing an ITR, or let's say getting a will executed in the court of law in India. Those execution-based services are value-added, but the 10K covers advisory calls with everyone, each of the advisors.
Got it. Perfect. I think we're at 10:20, so 20 minutes we've overshot, but I think we've covered pretty much everything. If there are no more questions, maybe we can wrap it up.
If there are any more questions also, feel free to sort of come to us. We are happy to do this conversation as private conversations.
Yes. So the best way to reach you is to go to your website and then start a conversation on the WhatsApp chat, isn't it?
Correct.
Perfect. Vinod has raised his hand. Vinod, if you want to quickly ask a question before we
Hi,
wrap up.
as part of your panel, do you guys also have someone who specializes in US taxes and as well as like CAs who were specialized in US taxes and India as well?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Yes.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's one of the most asked question, I think, like someone who can do both. So yeah, if you guys have that, that'll be quite useful for a lot of us.
Yeah, Kunal, I've just dropped the website URL. I was just guessing how come we have forgot to put that.
Yes, I'll be sharing the recording of this call on and sharing it on our our YouTube channel as well. And the link is there in the chat. It's turtlefinance.in. And any more questions? Great. Do we have a list of executionary items and their associated fees? Asks Nirav. Raj?
Sorry.
Do we have a list of executionary items and their associated fees?
It actually depends and it varies from case to case. There is no, but we can share that with you once depending on the kind of service you need. Today we are primarily advisory first, and that is the fees which is logged. So we communicate that. If there is anything else, we don't like to commit a fees if we can't do that, if we can't pull that out. And I think a lot of things have a lot of different.
So I'll just ask a follow up there, Money, if I can ask, if that's okay.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah. So essentially, see, I mean, if there is an advisory, right, at the end of the day, the execution has to happen, right, for that. So the question was around that. Obviously, I'm consulting if it's your group of advisors, then obviously the follow-on step has to be taken, right? And that's why I want to see if there are any associated fees for that, and how will that? I mean, any general sort of category if you can give. I know it can be very specific. It can depend from state to state and maybe from country to country, right? So different. So that's the question primarily.
I think I can cover this with two examples. Let's say we pick up the space of investments and you are planning to make an investment in India. Thanks to technological development, we all the apps are free. Let's say you pick up a Zerodha in India or Grow in India. That can be used to deploy the funds. There is no additional fee for that, and we are more than happy to operationally and administratively handhold you on a call how to set up an account over there. Taking an example of ITR filing. So last year was our first season to do that, and again the flat advisory fee model was taken over there. So we charge a flat fee of 3,000 rupees additional for filing an ITR per PAN card. So these are some of the numbers which have actually been taken into consideration in the last 1 year.
But actually the focus is, and since how we operate is, let's say you are talking about tax advisory, we figure out these are the X amount of things need to be done for your tax bill to be the lowest. Those things will depend from person to person. But if you say, I want help with execution and we provide you a quote, we are working with directly with the advisor. So the person who's advising you will also be the one doing execution for you. And like it will be easily like from a compensation perspective also pretty competitive from whatever you can get in the market.
Okay, got it.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks, Nirav. Wonderful. I think this should be it. I think we can wrap it up. We've covered pretty much everything, and lovely answering these questions. I mean, quite insightful, to be honest with you. I hope all of you really liked it. We'll be sharing the recording on our YouTube channel. But before we wrap up, Mukund and Raj, would you like to conclude, share anything? Maybe a discount for our viewers, perhaps?
I think nothing on the discount side. We, as a founders, are always available to. We're just a call away on that. But I just want to say thank you. This has been definitely, we have overstretched over time, but this has been one of the most engaging session. Highest number of FAQs we have received, and we are more than happy. We're waiting for those private conversations to happen and help each one of you.
Wonderful. Great. Thank you, guys. This has been really nice. Thank you for doing this. And thank you all for participating and asking your questions. I hope this was useful for you. Please make sure you check out their website. It's turtlefinance.in. And if you have any questions, please do reach out to them. They do have a chat widget on their site. That's the best way to reach out. I hope you make use of it. Great. So we'll wrap up for now and then maybe do another session sometime, perhaps. Wonderful. So
Sounds
thank
good.
you.
Thanks, Funny. Thanks, team. Bye.
Thank you all.
Hi.
I just realized I forgot to turn on my video.
Mani, I think some of the people are asking about the YouTube channel where the recording will be posted.
Yeah, I'll be sharing the link with you all on email and WhatsApp and in our groups. So just watch out for it.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Mani. Thank you, all of you, for taking our time.
Wonderful. Good night. Have a good day.
Have a good day.